long because of the risk of exposure to heavy metals and what we call polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs in short, cancer-causing substances essentially. So, site's been sitting vacant. The buildings are dilapidated. It's an eyesore. It would make a great movie set for a Mad Max movie or something like that. But since we lost that tax credit in Iowa, we're not going to go that route. So, the site needs to be cleaned up. It's ideal for redevelopment here mostly because it has good road access. It has good electric utilities, a substation not far from there to provide whatever electricity is needed. It has natural gas along Carbide Lane and has rail access, most importantly. These sites are hard to come by these days that have rail access and are available for redevelopment. So long-term, this is a great prospect for bringing in industry to Keokuk when we get it cleaned up and get it to the point where it's safe for people to be on site and remove the structures that are going to be costly to remove, in part because, again, some of them contain asbestos too that has to be taken care of. Another contaminant I didn't mention earlier. Okay, yep. So there's 2 EPA grant focus areas now. To the north, we're calling that essentially Plat 1. It's six acres or so, eight all the way over to the east. It's office warehouse, was a petroleum coke storage area. That is the focus area right now that has the least contamination. And so therefore we applied for what we could at the time. The maximum amount we could get at the time was $2 million to clean up that site from EPA. So that $2 million is being put toward cleaning up the northern part. When that's cleaned up, the idea is possibly to actually get industry in there sooner than the rest of the sites clean up. So to improve, essentially access to the facility, clear all those old buildings, clear all that broken concrete, and make that available as soon as possible for redevelopment. Again, redevelopment essentially means jobs and tax base, So critical we get something moving, get some money flowing in from the activity at this site. The second EPA grant, the $4.485 million, is targeted toward the central site operations. And this is the portion of the site that has been operating since 1900, somewhere between 1900 and 1910. And this is a very, very difficult area in terms of we've got hazardous materials, we've got old coal tar pits, we've got, again, heavy contamination of coal-related substances, so compounds. So again, both of these areas, with this money from EPA, we're hopeful that we can get the buildings removed, the contamination removed, clean soil brought in. We've got a few sources that we're looking at in the area to provide clean soil to this site. Some folks have reached out, and then get them approved by the DNR for industrial commercial use. So the last area that we with Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission's assistance, just submitted another grant application for the southern area of the site. Some delineated specific contamination areas there, not necessarily under that building. It's a big foundry type building, very robust structure, but contamination around the building. And so we expect to find out on that probably April, May. Maybe. And the amount of that application was what? $2 million, just under $2 million. So we are hopeful to continue this process. We do expect that someone mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure law earlier with some work at the airport. We do expect as that goes away, unless the Inflation Reduction Act dollars continue, this may be our last shot to get some federal money and to get this site cleaned up. So that's why we just charged ahead and went after another $2 million for the southern part of the site. We've got the contamination delineated. We know what we have to do. We need to write plans and specs, go out for bid, and get these areas cleaned up. So Sam, you want to take it from here?
Good evening. Once again, my name is Sam Avery, and I'm a regional planner at the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission. If you don't know what a regional planning commission does, our motto is strengthening Southeast Iowa, and one of the primary ways we do that is by writing and administering grants, which I'm about to discuss. So I'm actually going to kind of just explain CERPC's role in the process, and I'm going to start with application assistance because, as Mike said, we just submitted a $2 million application for Area 3 for cleanup. So what we do essentially is coordinate conversations with the qualified environmental professional, EOCene, and the city of Keokuk about previous assessment work to understand what the scope of work is going to be, how much money we need to request, and what exactly needs to be cleaned up. And then after that, CERPC begins to develop the grant application to meet the requirements of the notice of funding to ensure that everything is in a row. And in this narrative that we have to submit a lot of different parts for, we aim to do three things. One, we want to tell a story about where the community has been, what has led to vacant brownfield sites in the area. Two, go over the specifics of the site, what makes these materials so hazardous, why is this a good opportunity for development, and three, a vision of reuse. What organizations is the city of Keokuk going to contact? What organizations are we going to contact to facilitate economic development and the construction of new industry on the site? And then before we submit the application, we always try to go through a review process with the Kansas State University Technical Assistance Program. They provide review assistance on grant applications, and we do this just to make sure that we get an extra vote of confidence before submitting and to make sure that we secure the funding that's needed. And then we submit the grant. And so that brings me to our second key role, and that is grant administration. And CERPC has been in this role on the grants awarded for Area 1 and recently on Area 2. So we will develop the work plan with the city and the EPA staff. We also submit a sample work plan in the application, but then we finalize it post-grant award. And we also head up the competitive bidding process. We put together a technical advisory committee of local stakeholders, and that is how, and they scored based on criteria that aligns with the grant objectives, and that is how EOCene was selected. And our main role as grant administrators, I guess, would be two things. One, to coordinate conversations with all stakeholders involved. So the city of Keokuk, EOCene, Iowa DNR, EPA staff, and two, compliance, submitting all necessary federal forms to ensure that we don't lose our funding and that the activities that we're conducting are in line with our cooperative agreement. And in addition, last year, I believe, we sent an employee to the National Brownfields Conference just to make sure that we're best acquainted with all best practices when it comes to brownfield cleanup and managing such a large amount of money. And then CERPC's second role is community outreach, and we get a lot of help with that from EOCene and the city of Keokuk as well. And so one of the things that we have to submit and get approved is a community involvement plan to make sure that everyone in the public is aware of what's going on and all necessary organizations get input or are able to provide their input. And this includes attending council meetings like tonight to provide project updates, planning and coordinating public meetings in the future to make sure everyone is informed, assist EOCene getting materials printed and onto the project website. We do have a project website. It is keokukbrownfields.com. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really good summary of the activities that are going on the site. And lastly, be a repository for information to allow the public to have access to information about the site's history, assessment activity, and any future cleanup activities. So that is CERPC's role on this project, and I'm also going to give a quick update on Plat 1, Area 1. So as some of you may know, the grant period started on September 1st, 2023. There has been some delay in the timeline. There's been a transition of staff at pretty much all organizations involved at EOC and at CERPC and in Keokuk. But we are catching up. We are back in compliance with the EPA, and we are on track for cleanup activities to be finished around later 2025. And I believe since we last met, CERPC has assisted the city in subdividing Plat 1 into a separate area in order to maximize the grant funding that we can receive. We've completed the tracking of invoices, grant expenses, and helped out with draws. We complete quarterly reporting each quarter and submit annual documents. We hold monthly and bi-monthly meetings with the EPA project officer to make sure that we are always in compliance. EOC has also, EOC and CERPC and the city of Keokuk have collaborated to submit enrollment to the Iowa DNR land recycling program. Maybe Emily or Mike could tell you a little bit more about that, but it was a critical goal that was in our work plan for Area 1. And that is about it up until this point. But to be expected, CERPC will be submitting other materials to EPA that are due over the next couple of months, and we will make sure to keep city staff and council in the loop with those things. And the key item is getting the bid package for cleanup and cleanup activities to happen starting this spring and through the fall and winter. So getting contractors on site and getting the work done.
Okay, hi. So I'll just briefly go through what the land recycling program is. I know we talked about this last time. It's Iowa's voluntary cleanup program. It is a requirement of your EPA grants that the state agency oversee the cleanup according to our state rules for contaminated sites. Ooh, hello. So it's the pathway to a no further action status on the site, which means that the DNR has reviewed our processes, our sampling, our results, our cleanup, and they say, okay, we agree with you that it is safe for the use that you're recommending. And so that's kind of the assurance that the public has that the cleanup was done correctly for what the site's going to be used for, and that it's safe for people to be on. It's a little more expensive to go through the land recycling program just because there's a million different steps and processes and reports that you need to submit and the DNR needs to review. So there's a lot of back and forth. It's a little slower, it's a little spendier, but it's a requirement of your grants rather than just going out and doing the cleanup the old-fashioned way. So that's just a really quick primer on the LRP. Area 2, the subject of the $4.485 million grant. We were, just as everyone said, just recently selected as your qualified environmental professional on that grant. And then our contract for that is on your agenda tonight. As Sam mentioned, we'll be doing the land recycling program enrollment for that as quickly as possible in an attempt to get Area 1 and Area 2 kind of on parallel paths. So that we can hopefully do, one cleanup right after the other and save some economies of scale with contractor mobilizations and the like. So the idea for Area 2 is to get the State Historic Preservation Office documents into them as quickly as possible, because with federal funding, of course, you have SHPO involvement when you have structures and archaeological sites, but we don't anticipate any roadblocks on that front. So yeah, we're going to try to go as quick as we can on Area 2 to really get it done on, if not ahead of schedule for what the grant anticipates and requires. Area 3 is the subject of that current cleanup grant that we've just submitted. And as Mike indicated, the point of that grant and the mission of that grant would be to clean up the soil that's contaminated around Area 3. And like Mike said, in these times, even before they had the landfill open to dump on site, I mean, waste was just chucked out the back door. That's the way things are done, right, on lots of properties across the US prior to environmental regulations. So there's a fair bit of, contaminated soil and waste from the foundry processes that are just kind of hidden under the surface here. And that's the goal of the hopefully soon to be awarded third cleanup grant on the property. We did not plan to demolish the building. It's a very stout building, as Mike said. Huge, lots of concrete, pretty expensive demolition. So given the funding constraints that are out there, we thought it was better to just leave that structure stand and take care of the soil. So I'm going to throw a little curveball at you guys. There's a new grant out right now called the ReGrant, and it has a much longer name than that. But basically, the EPA sub-granted millions and millions of dollars to secondary agencies, kind of like SERPC, within each of the 7 EPA regions to try to spend a bunch more of this money that's out there right now. It's up to $750,000 per site project. There's not a limitation on the number of applications one can make. And so as we were thinking about this site in Keokuk, we wondered about potentially applying for some of this. I think the application portal is just opened like this week. Applications are due in January. This is something that we would take care of on behalf of the city with your concurrence. But one of the you see in the background here, this is one of the plans that was done as a part of Impact 7G's work prior on the site. The idea behind this side is some sort of preservation of the woodland, a little bit of stewardship going in there and getting rid of invasive species, just making that woodland area thrive. And then perhaps having it be some sort of recreational opportunity with paths, et cetera, and, informational signs and educational signs for the folks that are going to be working on this site and for the citizens of Keokuk at large to come use. That's one idea for an application. If we go to sort of the central area, where you have kind of plat area 1 and area 2, the subject of your 2 current cleanup grants, we could apply for $750,000 to bolster those budgets, and do a little more, take a little more contamination out. Not have to be as, we're planning to get the cleanup done for the money that we have, right? But you can always take a little more out, which is always a good thing. The more contamination you can remove, the better for the.
One thing this money does allow for is the actual preparation of the site for development. So
That's true.
That money we can't use the existing cleanup grant. So if we wanted to put in a road infrastructure and street lighting, we could take 350,000 of the 750 to use it for actual development purposes, and that would make it that much more saleable to a prospective developer.
Far better point than the one I was making. Absolutely. Yes. So that's option 2 is an idea for the council to think about. Option 3 is the larger area to the south, that great big old building. We could use that funding to demolish that building and prep it for redevelopment, as Mike says. And then another option is the former landfill. We've got to leave that alone. And there was some interest in doing a solar field there, I believe, some years ago. But the fact that it's on a landfill cap, it needs to be a ballasted system on a concrete pad. And I think that the cost of that, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, made it an unattractive site for the power company, for Alliant Energy. Yeah. And so if we could use quite a bit of funding to prep that site and say, hey, it's ready to go for a ballasted system, then perhaps that becomes a much more attractive project for an energy company to put a solar field on that to support this development and, depending on how much it generates, kick into the grid for Keokuk at large. So you could pick one of these, you could pick all 4 of these, order of importance, kind of think about it, and you don't have to do that right now, but just something we wanted to put on your radar, so to speak, and we can have more discussions about that. But applications are due like end of January, so if you want to move on any of this as a council, let us know.
One other option for the site on the east landfill site that we've seen done before is get it leveled with some additional clay soil material, topsoil, and then make it a recreational sports complex type area, whether it's a soccer field, whether it's a baseball field, that type of thing. So it's a good use of the landfill of this type to do that. So one other option out there is to get that site prepped for some other recreational use as well for the public at large.
So next steps, last slide. Sorry, everybody, for taking so long, so much of the council meeting. We need to get the final plat approved for Area 3, get the contractor selected to work, get them out there, construction going. Y'all let us know if you're interested in applying for any of that re-grant funding, and we hopefully get that third cleanup grant. So, and if you think of other sites in town in Keokuk that would be great for the re-grant program, we should think about that as well. So.
Downtown sites, if you have any downtown
Yeah.
sites that need to be addressed. You have economic development folks that we're trying to get an old building rehab and reused.
The what's eligible here is very broad because they want you to be able to fit your project, whatever it is, into these parameters. So, okay. Any questions? Yes? No?
None?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 11, consider resolution approving the mayor to enter into the contract with Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission to provide grant administration services for the EPA Brownfield Cleanup Grant, Auditor's Partial D 365 Carbide Lane. Do I have a motion to approve?
Kathy,
Southeast Iowa
Kathy,
Planning,
I'm sorry, that needs to be, remember the ordinance or resolution needs to be amended. I
Yes.
transposed the numbers.
okay.
Thank you.
So in the resolution, it is written $106,900, and it needs to say $160,900. So we will need to amend this after we vote, or amend at the beginning. Which one do you want to do, guys?
I'll make a motion to amend.
Okay. All right. At Southeast Iowa, do I have
I'll second that.
okay, a second? Southeast Iowa will provide grant administrative services for the EPA Brownfield Grant Cleanup, Auditor's Partial D 365 Carbide Lane as outlined in the attached contract for services. The total payment shall be in the accordance with the terms and conditions contained with the EPA grant award document. Hourly fees for administration equal $70 per hour as set forth by the schedule adopted by Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission, plus cost of travel expenses to the National Brownfields Conferences. The total payment not to exceed $160,900. The grant will pay for these services. Do we have any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 12, consider a resolution approving the mayor to enter into an agreement with Civic Plus for municipal codes supplement services.
So moved.
As discussed in the December 5th, 2024 workshop concerning the numbering system used by the American Legal Publishing being an issue for the police departments issuing citations, staff is requesting to stay with our current provider, Civic Plus LLC mini code. Services for Civic Plus were due to increase this year, anticipating numerous amendments to our current municipal code. An email was sent regarding this. The attached statement of work agreement was sent with the increase of $854 for the initial increase. There are some services that are not included in the statement of work that will be reviewed in the amendment on page 3, item 2. Please let Pam know if you have any questions. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Consider resolution authorizing amendments to the scope of work for the Community Catalyst in remediation grant program through the Iowa Economic Development Authority as submitted on behalf of the ATTTH Group Incorporated for 1000 Main Street. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The city of Keokuk has been awarded the Community Catalyst Building Remediation Grant from the Iowa Economic Development Authority for $100,000 as the grant was submitted on behalf of the ATTTH Group Incorporated, Tarla and Adam Price, for renovations and repairs to the 1000 Main Street. Work that was not a part of the grant and has been completed, including renovations of the first floor, roofing, windows, and gutting the second story. These improvements cost approximately $600,000, quite a bit more than they had been estimated. To be able to take advantage of the Catalyst grant and to do the upper story apartments, repair and upgrade the elevator, seal new windows, etc., they have requested an amendment to the scope of the work that was submitted by the Catalyst grant. The original scope included tuck pointing, facade repairs, 3 upper story apartments, reconstruction of the sidewalk pavement on the 10th Street side of the building. They have requested removing the following from the scope of work: tuck pointing, facade paint / repairs, repair / reconstruction of the sidewalk on the 10th Street side and one of the apartments. Zach James, Assistant Director for Southeast Iowa Region Planning Commission, has spoke with Jim Thompson, Downtown Economic Development Specialist, Iowa Economic Development Authority, and he has stated that they understand and the IEDA is okay with this amendment. A development agreement has been prepared, but will need to be revised in the city council if the city council approves the amended scope of work. The development agreement will include waiver of the building permit fees and a 5-year 90% tax rebate as discussed in the previous council workshop. Any questions? Any more discussion?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Do we have a monetary assessment of what we would be sacrificing in the permit waivers and the tax abatements for, what was it, 5 years?
I do not, Dorothy. As far as the building permit, what was the cost? I would need the cost, total cost of construction, 276. I'd say about maybe $500 for the building permit.
Okay.
And as far as right now, a few other properties on Main Street that we're rebating, probably over the 5-year period, it'd be about $30,000.
Okay. And did you get clarification on that stairwell?
I have not. Adam and Tarla are here if anybody has any questions with them, but I wasn't, I'm not sure where you two are at. I'm not 100% positive about the second egress not being required, so those need to be checked. So as far as what the council would be approving this evening, that still may be required.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 14, consider a resolution reallocating America Rescue Plan Acts Fund, ARPA. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
It was determined that $373,680 of the ARPA funds are unexpended. Projects that have been completed that are eligible for these funds are as follows: $180,000 for the demo of 1920/21 South Fifth, $46,500 for the demo of 26/30 South 12th, $12,000 demo for 1026 Blondo, $35,638 for 15th Street repair, $55,008 for West Avenue Street repair, $35,000 for street, Timea Street engineering, and $10,000 low to moderate housing rehab, housing trust fund. Do I have any questions?
So we're just reallocating money here. Essentially, we had ARPA funds that were not used, and so we need to use them. And so we identified these projects as eligible ones, so we're shifting that to cover them.
Yes,
So
yes.
then what happens with the funds that were originally intended for these projects?
You mean the monies we already spent on the projects?
Yes, yeah.
So, the idea when myself, Pam, Emmanuel, the mayor and Celeste we've had, talks about these a couple different times. So the demo projects were not budgeted for, so those monies came directly out of our general fund. So the idea was to refund the general fund, those monies. The streets on there are eligible, and those monies will go back into the pool of the 5 million and be reused again on the streets. I think that's the only one. Do you have anything else? Pam would know more about the last one.
Yeah, so that was actual, city council, our last budget meeting, we discussed, a match to the Housing Trust Fund of $10,000. All communities put in, $5,000 to $10,000, depending on your size, to help with the, grant application for the Housing Trust Fund. As far as the demos, 150,000 was, budgeted for, the remaining was not. That's over budget for that.
Okay, so it's repaying some of the general fund, and then it's going back into the pot for future road
Right.
work done.
And the
So,
stipulation had to be, we had to have projects that were already under contract before December 31 of 2024.
thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 15, consider resolution obligating home rehabilitation block grant pilot program funds awarded number 23 HRBGPP 001 for rehabilitation of 8 owner-occupied or rental properties. Do I have a motion to approve? The city of Keokuk is awarded a home rehabilitation block grant pilot federal funds in the amount of $600,000. The city of Keokuk is providing a $25% match. There is still around $440,000 to obligate by December 31st, 2024. $200,000 of this would have went toward the rehabilitation of 1012 Blondo, but the city did not receive any proposal on this property. It was considered to request that additional funding be obligated to this property, with the city being the developer, but staff feels that providing assistance to 8 properties would make a much larger impact on the community. 6 additional properties have been selected, contracts awarded, and are completed or are being worked on. Do I have any questions?
So Pam, these additional 6 properties then, were those from the original applications?
The
Or
first-
did
yeah.
we go back and get new applications for that?
No, the 6 additional properties, I maybe worded that wrong, but they've already been through the process. So they are almost, either being completed or will be worked on. The other 8 properties, we will have people, they'll have to come in. We'll make sure that they're all qualified, which is income all qualified. They'll have to have insurance, have their property taxes paid, that sort of thing. We'll make sure that they are all qualified before we get them signed up, but that will help out tremendously to get these homes sided, windows, energy efficiency. Some of them will need some furnaces, so.
So 1012 Blondo then is not going to be rehabbed.
It-
That's not included in this list of.
It is not, no.
Okay.
It was probably what the cost was to rehab, that was around 500,000. And, the 200,000, that was the grant funding, just didn't entice anybody. There's a couple walls that, brick walls that were going to need to be probably rebuilt. And I think it just was too much. And I think putting that much money into one structure is not really sensible.
So then the plan would just be to wait for a bit and then add it to the demo list? Or
Yeah.
what are you
I
thinking?
believe we're going to go ahead and end up demoing. I can go ahead and reach out again, and put it on a list to see if anybody's interested. No grant funding would be with it at that point, but I can't imagine we would get anybody to. I think just tearing them down and getting them, hopefully maybe we can get some duplexes or something on the couple lots there.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 16, consider resolution obligating home rehabilitation block grant pilot program funds awarded number 23 HR BGPP 001 for the sale and rehabilitation of 120 North 9th Street. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The city of Keokuk requested proposals for rehabilitation for 120 North 9th. One proposal was received from Robert William Properties LLC, 806 West Burlington, Fairfield, Iowa. The RFP had repairs identified one of these as a place all exterior elements, including the roof. All repairs were identified by Robert William Properties LLC except the roof. Staff requested that the roof covering be removed and reinstalled. $50,000 from the Home Rehabilitation Block Grant Pilot Program will be obligated to the repair/rehabilitation as an incentive to bring the property to minimum standards and provide rental space to the low to moderate qualified families. Bill Bryant is the owner of Robert William Properties LLC and Lee County Commercials LLC. Mr. Bryant owns several rentals in the city of Keokuk, including 2528 Main that he purchased from the city of Keokuk to rehabilitate in 2019. This building has been occupied by Java River for several years. A contract will be prepared between the city of Keokuk and Robert William Properties to ensure the grant requirements are met. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Bryant is here if anyone has any questions of him.
No questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 17, consider resolution approving the annual urban renewal report for fiscal year 2023 through 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A resolution to approve the annual urban renewal report for the fiscal year 23-24 as required by section 403.23 of the Code of Iowa. The report provides details on the city's urban renewal areas, activities, and financial information for the preceding fiscal year. Upon approval, the report will be submitted to the Iowa Department of Management to ensure compliance with the statutory reporting requirements. Do I have any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 18. I need a motion to approve setting the budget review sessions.
So moved.
As part of the budget process, meetings to review department requests need to be scheduled. The dates for the meetings are as follows: January 18th, 2025 at 8 a.m., January 21st, 2025 at 5 p.m., and January 25th, 2025, 8 a.m. The sessions will be held at City Hall and are open to the public. We will proceed as last year, having department heads present present any deviations in expenses from the prior year, and conclude with overall revenue projections at the last workshop. Do we have any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes. Item number 19, motion to approve resignation of Third Ward Councilperson Rosalind Garcia, effective December 19th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Councilperson Rosalind Garcia has given the city of Keokuk her resignation from the city council. The best course of action would be to fill by appointment, and you see the attached memo. Because the chosen candidate will be fulfilling Councilperson Garcia's third ward seat, the seat will be up for election on November 20th, 2025 ballot. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 19, motion to approve item number 20, motion to approve filling the third ward councilperson seat by appointment.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 20 was that one. Item number 21, do we have any council liaison reports? Item number 22, staff reports. Item number 23 is new business.
Mayor, I have a couple.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zeph.
You're all right. I thought I caught your attention. We conducted a fundraiser in November. Our police department staff did No Shave November. We do it every year. We raised a little over $1,300, which was donated to the Lee County Conservation. We choose a different charity every year. That's where it went this year. This last Saturday, we had the Shop with a Cop event that we participated in at our Walmart. We had several staff members volunteer their time to do that. That would be Lacey Jones, Ashley Custer, Officer Nick Smith, Officer Allison Dade, and Assistant Chief Andy Whitaker. They joined myself and a multitude of other law enforcement agencies to make that a success. Also want to recognize Officer Colin Crenshaw and Officer Allison Dade, who both reached 5 years of service this past week.
Any more staff reports? Item number 23 is new business, and that brings us to one of the fun parts of a council meeting. We are going to have Officer Matt Murphy come to the podium, and we will be promoting him to captain. If you would raise your right hand. I, Matt Murphy, do solemnly swear
I, Matt Murphy, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Iowa,
and of the state of Iowa,
and that I will honestly demean myself in office
that I will honestly demean myself in office
and faithfully and impartially
and faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of captain
discharge the duties of captain
of the city of Keokuk
of the city of Keokuk
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and in accordance with the laws of the state of Iowa
and in accordance with the laws of the state of Iowa
and ordinance of said city.
and ordinances of said city.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 24, we need a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're going to take 3 minutes and then we'll come back for the workshop. Huh?
Yeah. Get some more money out of it. I'm afraid that the federal monies are going to be. Have you been listening today? Today, to the news? No. They just axed all the pieces, the continuing resolution to stop, what do you call it? Government shutdown. Hey, guy. Where did Brian's still down there? I'll go ask.
Do these work yet? Okay. I was trying, I didn't see like the slides for the brownfield stuff. Okay. 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 That's fine.
January.
Yeah, that, what day is that? Wednesday. What time?
Um,
8:15. Next Wednesday should be. No, first Wednesday. Oh, yeah.
I didn't see Brian.
so if it goes like it did with me, whoever replaces Roslyn will take her committee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
We should get filled when we do the interview, and then they can start right away.
It's been few being on two committees that don't meet.
Really? I meet all the time.
In other words, he wants to be the sole terminator.
Who's the chairperson?
Brian.
Oh, okay, because your chairperson can call when a meeting, whenever they want. Like Mike is the chairperson, I'm invited to the meeting, so he calls meetings whenever he chooses, or when he's notified.
Well, I think Tyler's on one. I told him I couldn't do the 10th because I'll be on my way to Arkansas for grandson's wedding.
can't go any line of work. You can't hold it. Just to get electric and
For what?
but that's.
Over the whole block. That was the whole.
1100 block.
I. And you could just.
That whole block needs a lot.
Here we go, guys. I'd like to call to order the council workshop, December 19th, 2024, immediately following the regular meeting. The first thing on the item on the agenda is Southeast Iowa Development Center loan discussion.
It's the only thing on there, isn't it?
It's the only thing on there. It's all yours.
So you all should have a little summary of the loan, the monthly rent that's collected per month and per year, the current loan term that KEDC has. So we'll just go through this real quick. Right now, KEDC has a loan with the principal balance of $281,255.76 that they have a 7-year term on that they have no intention on paying off early. Right now, with the current MOU between the city and KEDC, we each receive 50% of the rent monies. That will continue until that loan is paid off. So we've had a couple meetings with the finance committee. What we're recommending to council is that the city takes that loan away from KEDC and we dissolve the MOU, and then the city takes on 100% of the rent monies from here on out. That's what the ask is tonight, if we can come to a consensus and then put that on the agenda for January 2nd, before KEDC and Lee County come in before their annual ask. I'm sure you probably have some questions on what's written or what we operationally or what benefits this is going to have for us.
I'm looking for the monthly and/or annual expenses on utilities, insurance, taxes on the rented space that I believe we're
So-
required to pay.
What we budget, I don't have the tax number yet. We actually just did a walkthrough with the county on Monday
Okay.
for them to figure the taxes that we're going to owe. But what we currently budget is around $150,000 a year for operations, which includes utilities, building maintenance, our janitor guy that's there, and internet.
So under the current MOU, what are the responsibilities that KEDC is performing out at the SID Center? Because those would go away and we would have to then have a plan for who's
So-
going to do that then.
The responsibilities that they are supposed to be performing would be the marketing and kind of the real estate side of the building. That pretty well ceased when Shelley Oltmans left the chamber, which would have been a couple years ago. She tried to kind of pick that up as she was a council person and a board member of KEDC, but really that kind of, when I started for the city, that kind of fell back on us to do, and we're still doing that. When the merger happens here at the first of the year between KEDC and Lee County, Lee County has mentioned that they would like an office in the Sid Center for, I'm not 100% sure they're still going to hire a Keokuk person, but they do have a person hired that's going to kind of be responsible and, from what I'm told, encompass the Sid Center. So kind of in exchange for that office space, we would like them to do the marketing, and I think they have it on their website, but do a little more marketing of that space for us, which maybe will help them incentivize the council for the funding that they're going to come ask for. But
Did I understand you correctly that the annual expenses are 150,000?
that's approximately what we budget every year.
So
yes.
we're anticipating going in the whole 30,000 a year on it?
Well,
If we take over both sets of payments, that's only 120 coming in.
right.
What happens if one or the other of those parties ends up not being able to complete their contracts?
Then we would have to actively market for that space.
But we'll be.
Right now, we take in $60,000 a year and we spend over $150,000 on the building.
You say we can't get it?
I said, right now, we currently take in $60,000 a year of the rent monies, and we expend over $150,000 on the building.
So we're on the hook for 90,000
Yep, currently.
currently.
So the benefit for us to take over that loan is, instead of us collecting 50% of the rent for the next 7 years, we can start collecting 100% of the rent now. Which we have, our longest lease agreement right now is 5 years with Roquette, with some more meetings to come with them, because we've had some talks that they would possibly extend that and possibly take more space in the building.
Which will require more.
Which will require another agreement between us and Roquette on a build out. I believe currently we still have to retain ownership for approximately another 13 years.
So you mentioned Lee County wanting an office potentially. Do we have that available as of now? I
Yeah.
mean, they could move into that tomorrow if
Yep,
it worked out.
the only
that way.
thing they would need was maybe some.
I think, because they're just looking at basically a 12 by 12 or something in a desk.
Yeah, and from what I'm gathering from Emily, they want to house their new person there a couple days a week.
Okay.
To have somebody on site.
The only other question I have is, because I know somebody's going to ask me this question, what is the loan payment, and would that be like a monthly, a biannual?
So right now, the loan payment is around $3,200 a month, how it's written for KEDC. If the city decides to take over the loan, we would have to determine what our best option is, whether we pay the minimum and extend it out, or we come together with a different plan to get it paid off as soon as we can get it paid off. So we're actually taking in the full amount of the rent money. If we took the rent monies right now and put that 100% towards the loan, it would take 28 months to pay ourselves back.
Now, when you say 100%, is that 100% of the additional 60 that we'll be getting?
Yeah, so we would get 120,000 a year instead of the 60,000 a year.
And all that would be going back towards the principal of the loan?
Well, that's a decision we would have to make on how we would want to pay back the loan.
Well, at the minimum payments that we would come up with, that would probably just be for the monthly
The
interest,
minimum, that
right?
minimum would be like that $3,200 would just be
just paying off interest, basically. Nothing going
That,
towards.
that would be
principal.
that would be to pay it off in the 7 years.
Any more questions or discussion, guys?
It gets us closer to getting out of the hole in the building that Dorothy brought up. And then it also, if we take this over and then we get 100% of the rent money moving forward in the future as we continue to get more tenants, then the benefit of that will continue to grow in our favor as well.
Correct.
But that's no guarantee that
No.
that'll happen at this point.
I personally don't see how there's any conceivable benefit in that building, you know, going forward. If we're getting 120 and that's just going towards the principal of the loan, hopefully, then we're still that 150 short, you know, every year. That just the fact that we're getting all of the rent, that doesn't really get us out of the hole. It just
No.
gets the bank paid off quicker.
And that is all dependent on what we would decide to do for the repayment of that.
Anybody else? Then this will be on the next January 2nd agenda, and let's go home.